Good morning on Thursday, March 30th. We are in post mode show from the massive Samsung unveiling. It's episode 2002. All right, I screwed up my intro. Now it's time for Roger Cheng to screw up his.
Yes!
Good morning, everybody. Joining us is Fox Rubin Shara Tibken. Thanks for coming all the way from SF.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everybody.
You can tell she's a little drained from the post.
Everybody's drained.
We're just a little burnt
I
out.
barely
Go
keep
easy
my
on
eyes
us.
open.
You know what?
right
We're
now.
burnt out, but we're still going strong. We've got a lot more Samsung coverage the next couple of days, as well as today, as well as a full review coming. I don't know when. Soon. We don't have the unit yet, but it'll be coming soon. So, yeah, as you can imagine, this is gonna be all Samsung.
Samsung all week.
All week. I know. That's right. And then Shara's here to answer all of your questions about the phone. She went to Korea to check out the battery process as well as the phones getting made. So if you have any questions about that, pick them in the comment section. As usual, Ryan will pick out the best and we will answer them in 3 minutes and 59 seconds.
All right.
From approximately 3, 2...
Welcome to the 359, where we talk about the top tech news of the day and all the crap we want to throw in. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Fox Rubin.
And with us is Samsung expert Shara Tibken. Shara, so excited to be here, I can tell. Shara, you actually went to Korea a few weeks ago to get a sneak peek of the Galaxy S8 and how the batteries were tested. What did you see out there?
Yeah. The first day I was in Suwon, which is their headquarters, and we got to see the new Galaxy S8. They talked us through the features, basically more in depth than what we saw at the event yesterday.
Right.
And then we took a helicopter to Gumi, which is one of the 9 locations that they build devices, mobile devices, and walked through their new battery testing process, their typical manufacturing process, just to see what they're doing to make sure that this phone's going to be safe.
What was the craziest thing you saw out there?
This was something that was not supposed to happen that we saw. We were looking at a compression test where this like big bar pushes this battery against like another metal like plate on the ground. And what's supposed to happen is the bar comes up and the battery's there and it's fine. You know, nothing exploded. And I guess what had happened was one of the technicians put a lot more pressure than you normally would. So everybody just kind of stopped paying attention to it. And I looked at the case, you know, after like 30 seconds, a couple minutes or something, and noticed the battery was smoking. Oh, no. And then it turned like red hot, burst into flames.
Seriously?
And then, yeah,
Yep.
seriously. And I'm just sitting there like, I cannot believe this just happened. Like, they're here to show us that this is not going to happen. And I was like, holy crap, how did this happen?
Okay, so despite that one instance, which sounds horribly embarrassing for Samsung, did you leave that feeling like, like from a consumer perspective, that you were a little bit more confident to like tell a family member, or you yourself would be confident in buying like the next Samsung phone?
Well, it's hard to say. Like, I mean, I saw their manufacturing almost 4 years ago. So you can't say like, I'm not a battery expert. I don't, so this stuff looks impressive to me, but I don't know that, so I talked to their battery advisors and other experts, and, what their battery advisors who are, professors at like Berkeley and Stanford and different places, what they said was Samsung's gone above and beyond what they need to do in terms of testing these, but it's expensive. And so how long are they going to keep doing this?
Yeah,
are they going to keep
point.
doing this forever? I mean, they can't have any problems with this phone, but who knows how much longer.
All right, so let's
keep it going.
Let's get to the Galaxy S8. What are the biggest changes, the biggest features that wowed you?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing anyone's going to notice is the screen.
Right.
And also, it's kind of a taller, skinnier phone than pretty much any phone I've ever held.
Right.
There's essentially no bezels. Like, the whole front is basically a screen. There's no physical home button. The fingerprint reader is on the back right next to the camera, which is
weird.
Going to annoy a lot of people, I think.
But there is facial recognition.
Yes, there's
right?
facial recognition, so people may never use the fingerprint, except facial recognition is not secure. So you can't use it for Samsung Pay. You can't use it for any like business sort of things you need it for. So then you'd have to do like iris scanner or fingerprint or PIN code.
Yeah, there are a lot of different security options.
Yeah, I think they had like 6 different options, I think, as they said, something like that. Yeah,
so
it's a lot.
I also wanted to bring up Bigsby, which is their other big feature they're adding to this phone. I mean, you had a chance to kind of try it out. I mean, what are your initial impressions?
I think for people, Bixby is going to be an adjustment because it's not doing what you expected a digital assistant to do. You're used to talking to like Siri or Google Assistant and saying, who was the 35th president of the United States?
Right.
What's the weather tomorrow? Where do I hide a dead body? Those kind of things. No, really, that's a popular one. But Bixby can't answer that. Bixby is going to help you do things on your phone. It's a new sort of interface for your phone, which is good because anybody who's used a Samsung phone knows there's like menus upon menus upon menus, which they've done a good job paring those down, but it still is hard to figure out how to do things. So instead of having to go through all that, you can just say Bixby, turn on my mobile hotspot.
Okay, for more of these stories, check out our special report. It's mostly just Shar, actually. It's all Shar. We got Q&A, big feature. Check it out on CNET. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm Shara Tibken.
Thanks for listening.
All right, taking a look in the chat. Our first question is coming from, hang on, I lost his name. Adil, he's asking about the speakers on the S8. Did anybody get any experience with the actual loudspeakers and how do they stack up against the S7?
I tried playing a movie there, but it was kind of
It's probably hard to get any
So
semblance
loud.
with that audience.
And I don't think that they were really emphasizing the speakers the same way Apple did with the iPhone 7.
Yeah, or even with Samsung with the Tab S3, because I think they talked about, they had the Harman AKG technology. So
no speaker info, but we do. I mean, they do throw in those $100 headphones, right? Those AKG headphones. So that's a pretty sweet throw-in.
I mean, and I would assume in the future that they'll use more of Harman's audio technology in their devices. Like they own them now, so why not make the best possible speakers possible?
Mike, as well as a few others, have been intrigued by the VR. Did anybody get to have any hands-on with that?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, I used it.
How was it?
Well, the game I used was, I think, shooting like bunnies, so it was a little sad, but it was fun.
But were they like realistic bunnies or cartoon bunnies?
No, I mean, it was cartoon bunnies.
All right. Stop that terrible.
Wow, people do go hunting. I guess they do shoot real
It could be a thing. Yeah.
I mean, the VR headset itself isn't really different from the previous ones. They have it's a different color. It's the orchid gray, which is the main color of the S8.
But it's got the controller.
But it's got the controller,
Yep.
and the controller is pretty cool. Just for like shooting games or anything, it works pretty smooth.
And you've have you tried the Daydream controller?
No,
So
I haven't.
I have, and it's nice. It's nice in that it's basically it tracks your motion. It's got like a touchpad at the end. Is the Samsung one any different than that? Like it's the same deal, right? It controls motion. It tracks motion.
It tracks motion. Yeah, it's touchpad. Basically, they tried to recreate. So, like, if you used a Gear VR, there's the touchpad that's on the side that has like different like swipe button presses. They basically recreated that in the touch controller, so it's not hard for you to go from using this to using the controller. And same for like any games or anything. So you don't have to like reprogram everything completely to like change so now it's not like a double click of something, whereas on here you just tap it. They kind of like are trying a consistent experience.
Yeah, and I never liked the control on the side of the headset.
It's too hard to find.
Yeah,
like you kind of find like one button and then
accident.
Totally. Yeah.
Owen is asking, so I saw that Samsung had an iris scanner, but also facial recognition. Is that true facial recognition, or are they just calling it because it's scanning your eyes?
No, it's facial recognition. Like you can, so with the iris scanner, you kind of have to line that up and, look at it. Facial recognition works so fast. Like you can have your phone like sitting down here, like you normally hold a phone, like if you're sitting, you don't have to line it up. It really is facial recognition.
But with the iris scanner, you do have to line it up. Then
I think so. I mean, I didn't. You had to with the Note 7 iris scanner.
Okay.
They said they improved this iris scanner, but I don't think it's it's still fast. But I think facial recognition is faster. It's just not as secure.
So now that we're down a home button, do you think that this is all speculation? Of course. Do you think that that's going to hustle Apple down that alleyway, and do you think it's going to start yanking some of the iPhone users back over to Samsung?
I mean, I don't. People are always like, oh, Apple's gaining Samsung users or Samsung's gaining Apple users. I don't think so. I think people have decided what operating system they want to be in.
Pure loyalty.
Like your iOS or your Android.
Yep.
So like if you wanted the Note 7 and it had issues, you went to the Pixel or you went to something like that instead, or you went to an older Samsung device.
Right.
It wasn't that Apple suddenly gained is going to gain, steal away customers from Samsung. Like, at least in developed markets, people have kind of chosen.
Yep.
It's not that easy to switch between Android and iOS. Like,
Totally.
if you're used to one, it's
Right, you've
not.
got your music, you've got your apps. It's all in one ecosystem.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, that
Hard to
being
move over.
said, though, do you see Samsung getting an opportunity with the S8 because it is a different design and they do have that, I don't know, the infinity edges and everything like that? Do you see this as a chance for them to, I don't know, build on their lead in some way or gain some sort of opportunity with this phone?
The thing for Samsung is they usually are first with the hardware. Like, Apple does not lead with hardware. Like, they end up, there's been curved screens in Samsung devices for 2 years now.
Yep.
And OLED for, forever.
Yep.
I don't even know how long they've had OLED. Those are things that people are talking about coming to the iPhone. So it's just, what you get from Apple is a complete package because they control all of it. The hardware, the software, the services, that's all them. What you're getting from Samsung is really good hardware that people really love. You're getting Android with kind of Samsung's flavor on top of it, which a lot of people don't like. So I don't think necessarily the Samsung hardware, people really love it. It is beautiful. It's a really nice design. Like, the S8 is a really sleek looking phone. Whether it's going to tempt people away from the iPhone, I don't know. This year's iPhone is supposed to be, a huge, huge advance is what people are saying. So we'll have to see what Apple actually does. But I think Samsung's going to be able to hold its own at least.
I think you're right, though, in terms of people getting locked in. Like, once you're an Android user, like, you are, at this point, especially in those developed markets, you've had Android for many years. You've had iOS for many years. You're not really going to switch. It's really difficult, and it's just too much of a pain for a lot of people. So.
Yeah.
No, and the gains are from Samsung probably stealing from other Android.
For them, I think the bigger risk is not Apple. It's Google and Pixel, right?
But not even Google and Pixel. It's Huawei.
Oh, yeah.
It's the Chinese companies. It's the homegrown Indian companies who are making good phones that are really cheap.
Yep.
As far as the Android operating system goes, how does it stack up to standard Android as far as the Samsung experience of Android goes?
So Samsung's had this kind of skin on top of it called TouchWiz, and I don't know if they kind of stopped playing that up as much. I think Samsung's really shown a lot more restraint than they did with maybe like the S4. The S4, they had all this like gimmicky software, like eye scrolling. So like the screen would move based on your, it didn't work at all. They had all these features that nobody had a clue they even had. And I think that's one thing that their new head of mobile, DJ Ko, has really emphasized, and their new head of software and services, R&D, and Jong Ri. Like, they're trying to make services like Samsung Pay that people will actually use, versus kind of just putting all this junk on the phone because they can do it.
Clones of other services.
Yeah, it was like
voice.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Google has this service, but here's the Samsung flavor, and it defaults to the Samsung flavor.
I did know for this phone, I saw a Samsung browser there, and I know there were some reasons for it, but I'm like, did we really need a Samsung browser?
So we're getting low on time, but I love this question came up from Lick My Frog. So with facial recognition, if I cut my beard, will it still open my phone? Now, I kid you not, just minutes ago, I was outside the studio talking with Dan Ackerman, joking about that, and we're toying with the idea of running a test on that, see if it can hold up against the beard. Do we know what any of those stipulations are as far as like the facial?
We don't, and we also were curious because some facial recognition can unlock if you see a photo of someone versus like the actual person.
Yeah. Oh, that's why it's less secure?
Yeah, this is not secure. This is convenience. This is convenience. This is not a secure form of security. And like, I'm sure they're going to keep advancing it. And I'm sure, in 5 years, 3 years, whatever it is, it's going to be secure.
Yep.
And you'll be able to, because maybe it'll be like iris plus facial, whatever. It'll be faster, whatever they do. Right now, it's a convenience factor.
Yep.
But I don't know. A beard, I have no idea. Like, that's something we'd have to test out.
That's not a problem that she'd have to deal with. Nor
Let's
I
start.
can't grow a beard.
Let's start a Kickstarter to get Ben a facial tattoo and see if it holds up.
Oh God!
I would fund that by myself.
I might have to say yes to that. If it's like a Mike Tyson one, then I could get into it.
All right,
I'm
scrambling.
sure your wife would love that.
Scrambling to get through a couple more questions before we have to call it a day.
Yeah.
Our buddy Yathu doesn't like the
What's up,
idea
Yathu?
of a dedicated Bigsby button. If someone doesn't use that, then you've wasted hardware. Can we configure that button for anything else besides Bigsby?
Unclear.
Yeah.
I feel like for Samsung, it would be smart letting people configure it. However, they want people to use Bixby.
Yeah.
So if they're going to basically let you ignore Bixby and just remove it, what's the point of having Bixby or a button in the first place? So I personally don't think they're going to let you change it.
Like after maybe 6 months when they've realized that no one's used Bixby, or if no one uses Bixby,
Well, who knows?
Maybe they'll send an update that allows you to reconfigure the button. But
This
Yeah.
thing may come from like the back of the race and be the true dark horse winner, and maybe it can usurp Echo.
Well,
It's
I mean,
not
you have to
likely.
remember,
It's possible.
yeah.
You're
You
right,
have to
though.
remember they're going to be updating this thing constantly.
Yeah.
So out of the gate, it doesn't do a lot, but they're planning to come up with an update pretty early, and then they'll incorporate the Viv technology.
Right.
So by the time we get to the Note 8 this fall or whatever,
Right.
They probably will have improved it. By the time we get to the Galaxy S9. It might be something that's actually really useful.
Right.
Who knows?
Is
And
it-
we're going to see it in all their other products too.
Did you, when you were testing it out, was it just like a quick press like you would do to the home button, or a long press like you would do to? Get Siri,
I don't
because-
think that I got to. Okay. So the way it works with the button is like a walkie-talkie. You have to hold it down while
Okay,
you're talking
that's
to it.
helpful because
So,
otherwise
like-
you're gonna get like false,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Shara? How's it going?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
Bigsby.
yeah. No, it's like a walkie-talkie, and their point was people I think there was some study that only 6% of people who use voice assistants will actually talk to it in public. Like it's
Right.
such a small
Yeah,
number.
yeah.
Like I don't like talking to a voice assistant,
either,
and I don't
yeah.
like it talking to me. And so with this, you're holding it up to your face like you're actually talking on a phone, which I don't know who, smartphones, everybody has earbuds. It's like, that's. But anyway, so it's like you're talking on the phone. You're holding the button. It's like a walkie-talkie. So people could think you're just talking to your mom, not talking to your digital
Pretty
assistant.
good if you're a lonely guy.
Well, can-
who's just
can-
pretending to be on a
can
phone call.
Bixby
Hey,
be
Bixby.
Can
I'll
Bixby
see you
be
later
the
tonight.
Can Bixby be the ripcord on a bad date? I was like, sorry, I gotta take this.
Yeah, Bixby.
I gotta
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the next Samsung advertising campaign.
Mike is asking. He says Mike likes the idea of Bixby, but would like to see it voice activated rather than that button.
It is.
totally
No, it is.
agree.
It is.
There's a wake word.
Okay.
Yeah. What
Oh.
they
Is
said
it
was
Bill?
That would be awesome. And then just hulks out.
no. It's
You wouldn't like me when
it's-
I'm angry, Bixby.
Yeah, no, what they said, in San Francisco, when I was in Korea, they still weren't sure what it was going to be. In San Francisco, they said it was just going to be Bixby, not like, hi, Bixby, hey, Bixby. But knowing Samsung, they could still change that in between now and when people actually have the device. So theoretically, it's just going to be Bixby, but we'll see.
Clock is ticking until we see the season when they start naming, like new parents start naming their kids Bixby.
It's already happening in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And just a reminder, so this phone launches in, I believe, the U.S., Korea, and Canada on April 21st, and then April 28th in Europe, parts of Asia, and then in May for a lot of the rest of the market. So they have some time to work on Bixby.
Let's try to squeeze in at least one more here at the 11th
right.
hour.
Let's do
Mohammed asks, why do you think the S8 stuck with 4 gigs of RAM when they have the technology to bump it to 6 like the C9 Pro?
I think that
Costs.
cost. Samsung also they were conscious of the issues with the Note 7, and they didn't want to go all out in this phone. There's a lot they could have done. They could have added
And
they
also-
could have added a second lens. There's, which they said they didn't do that because they don't see a value for it right now. In other words, it's expensive.
Yeah.
If you're adding another camera lens, if you're adding more memory, I mean, they are the biggest memory maker in the world. Memory costs basically nothing at this
Right.
point. But
But I have to imagine, at 6 gigs of RAM, are you really getting that much more speed than 4 gigs? Is it going to be that much better?
well, especially on a phone.
Exactly.
It's
not,
noticeable if you're doing Photoshop.
Exactly. But for a phone, it's not that noticeable. So, the return on investment there is fairly limited. I
Yeah.
mean, beyond just being able to say, I've got 6 gigs of RAM, for a real user, that's not that tangible benefit.
All right, one last couple of recaps. What colors are going to be available, and what's the battery life?
So many questions.
So they have not said the battery life yet. I think they're still doing tests on that. But
Yeah.
what they did say was, so the capacity of this battery is a little bit smaller than the S7 Edge, but they used software and some other tweaks, so it should have better battery life than the S7 Edge, though they haven't told us exactly what. They also used a kind of slightly different chemistry on the battery after the Note 7 issues. so that this is a longer lasting battery, not like daily, but over time.
I think that's an issue. Yeah, that's an issue I've had with my phone.
Yeah. So after like 2 years, it's supposed to have 95% of its charging capacity. Most phones are like 80 or worse. So that's a good thing. Your phone should theoretically last longer because I think most people upgrade because your battery, I mean, realistically, because your battery doesn't work. Sorry, what was the other question?
Colors.
Oh, the
just
colors.
rehash.
In the U.S., we're getting, I believe, black, orchid gray, and silver. Some of the other regions have
blue
like
and
a
gold.
pink,
There's blue and gold.
So we're not getting those.
They're region locked, huh? That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, but come on, like it's expensive to manufacture 5-6 different colors of a phone.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
If like 2% of people are buying blue, okay, if they find out like in the U.S. like people, most 90% of people are going to buy black, silver, or
You're totally right.
gray. Why have a blue color?
I want
Doesn't make sense.
periwinkle.
Actually, I was a little
want
surprised.
podcast studio periwinkle.
I was a little surprised AT&T didn't like snap up that blue one as an exclusive. I just felt like that would be natural.
That could happen in a couple months.
Right,
Like we don't know.
right.
That always happens. When they come out with like an active version, maybe it's going to be like magenta. Who knows? It won't be.
It won't be. Well,
it won't be.
Somebody start.
AT&T would not want to go with magenta for
Somebody
sure.
They don't want to go with like their pink.
Start a change.org
T-Mobile.
petition to get new Samsung colors in the U.S.
What you do is you buy a case, and that solves the problem.
That's true. That's a way cheaper alternative.
You have
gonna ruin
found
that phone
the
to
chink
put it
in
in
my
the
armor.
case.
Yes.
All right, that's a great place to stop.
Yeah.
We got
awesome.
a torrent of questions still flooding in. Sorry, everybody, we can't get to everything. We got to roll. We got to get out of here. I've had enough Samsung. I'm tired of it.
I know this has been an all
just
Samsung
tired.
week, so
But thanks for all the questions.
we will.
everybody.
Yeah, thank you. We will try to come back next week with non-Samsung topics.
And I'm certain that we'll revisit Samsung again
Sure.
and again and again.
And if there really is
You're
demand,
a retainer, right, Shara?
Yeah, I can come back anytime.
there you go. And yeah, if there really is demand, we'll devote some time next week to answering a couple of overflow Samsung questions. All right, if you liked anything you saw or heard here, check us out on CNET. Our podcast is also available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, FeedBurner, and Google Play Music. We will see you all next week.
Have a great weekend.